So this session we've been asked to do this kind of thing. I think there's still a need from people, and obviously from the group of you that are here, to find out more about how to use Zoom. We've been using Zoom as a team for about 2 years. We are a team that's based across the UK, so we find it really helpful, and we find it better than Skype. So we are quite familiar. In the last few months, we've been using it more than ever for these workshops and things. So we spend a lot of our time on Zoom looking at lots of little screens with people on from around the UK, which is nice. But it can get a little bit tiring. You can get a bit of Zoom fatigue. So that's something to bear in mind, but it's super useful to connect people, especially at the moment. And I would say that we are familiar with Zoom. We're pretty savvy with it, but we're definitely not experts. So there might be some things that I don't know the answers to, or Katie doesn't know the answers to. So forgive us for that, but hopefully we can find you the answer somewhere else or direct you to the answers. I just wanted to say quickly, touch on Zoom looks different depending on what device you're on. So I can see a couple of you, I think, are on phones here today. So some of this stuff that I say might be for a desktop, for example, for a computer, and not exactly how you would see it on a phone. So one of the links that I've got for Katie to share is how to use Zoom on different devices. But I'll try and go through. If something doesn't make sense or you can't find what I'm talking about, please pop it in the chat, or please just unmute yourself and interrupt me. I don't mind that at all. So if you can't find what I'm talking about, please just shout and I will try and help. Okay, and I'm going to do a lot of this session via a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully it will still be interesting. When you share your screen on Zoom, you can't share what I can see now. You can't share the kind of, the interface of Zoom, if that makes sense. So what I've got is lots of screenshots of that so that it will look how it would look to you if you were using Zoom as a host. So hopefully that's more helpful. We've learned this from our own training that you can't, it's the best way to do it. So hopefully that's helpful. But I'm going to go bit by bit through stages of how to do things on Zoom. All right. And in between, I'm going to try and intersperse some interactive bits and pieces. So it's a really good idea to try and keep Zoom as interactive as possible, because it can, it's interesting how tiring it can be. It doesn't seem like it should be, but actually it does require quite a lot of concentration. And there's something about your brain can almost be kind of overloaded because there's a lot of things to be looking at and doing at once, and there are certain things that you don't get from Zoom, like being able to read people's body language, that in person you would. So it's a slightly different way of working, and it's a good idea to try and keep anything that you're doing slightly interactive. Lovely. And I think I'm going to try and see, with that in mind, if we can have a break about halfway through, just a little chance to have a screen break, grab a cup of tea, have a comfort break. So hopefully if I don't rabble on too much, we'll have time to do that. All right. So I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat, but hopefully Katie, she looks like she's all over it. Lovely. Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to get started. So I'm just going to share my screen, and you should see a PowerPoint pop up. Can everybody see that? Cool. Lovely. So I thought it'd be really nice if, first of all, we just went through some of the bits and pieces you can do as a participant on a Zoom session. So if you haven't already, and you can find the chat box, please feel free to just say hi in there. If you can't find where to chat, if you're on a phone or a tablet, you might need to click on your screen, and I think it's under participants and chat. Oh, I can see lots of chat comments coming through. Perfect. Great. And if you're on a computer, it's on the bottom bar. Amazing. Everybody's an expert. Great. You don't need this session at all, do you? Look it. Okay, great. And I also thought it'd be good to just have a little go at muting and unmuting ourselves, so we can make sure everybody knows how to do that. So again, this might be on your toolbar on the bottom left of your screen. So I thought, perfect. If I do a countdown, I thought we could all unmute ourselves at the same time and just say hi. And if it's a free-for-all, don't worry. So does everybody feel like they can find? Perfect. And I'm going to do a countdown from 3 and everybody can just shout hi. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Hey, perfect. I think that was hard to tell how many of you there were, but I think quite a lot. Perfect. And does everybody know how to turn on and off their video? So again, this is next to your microphone in the bottom left-hand corner. You have a camera and you should be able to turn that on and off. If you could have a go now. Got it?
I can't get a big screen up. All I've got is a little tiny piece in the middle.
Karen, are you on a tablet or a phone?
No, and a laptop.
That's maybe because Lucy's sharing her screen. So it probably means you won't get it. That's it. Does that help at all?
No, I've still got just a little tiny square in the top corner.
Oh,
I can't find anything to to enlarge it.
Are you? Can you see any of the rest of us, or just?
No, I've got a big square which says Zoom across the middle, and obviously the Zoom is open, but all I've got is this little square showing the main screen.
If you go into the bottom right-hand corner of that square, Karen, there will maybe be a square with an arrow pointing up on it. If you hover over it. Got it. Brilliant.
Thank you. I was reluctant to push that one because it said exit on it.
Perfect. And the last thing I wanted us to have a go at is just renaming ourselves. So you might have to find the option that says participants. Again, that might be in your toolbar on the bottom. And you should be able to hopefully find your name. And I think it might say more next to it. And there's the option to rename there. Can everybody find that? Yeah, got it? I can see a few names changing. Perfect. I also, as the host, have the ability to rename you, which I learned the other day. I didn't realise that. So I was frantically changing everyone's names in the back of our meeting. Okay, great. Well done, guys. Perfect. So I just wanted, firstly, to talk a little bit about how to set up a session on Zoom. So say you want to host a meeting or host your group or whatever that is on Zoom, how do you go about doing that? So I'm going to share my screen again here. Go back to my PowerPoint. So I'm hoping you can all see that again. Yeah, perfect. Lovely. So we set up most of our sessions on Zoom from the Zoom website. And if I could ask Katie to pop a link in the chat for that, it's basically Zoom, www.zoom.us. There's also an app that you can use, but I think we find it much easier to use the website because you've got so many more settings that you can sort out on there, and it's kind of all in one shop, if you see what I mean. So depending on what kind of plan you've got on Zoom, you might have more options than others. But essentially, the Zoom website will look a little bit like this. This will be your background for it. Just going to move you guys over here. Perfect. And this is where you can schedule meetings for the future. You can start meetings right now, and you could also join meetings on there. And this is where, yeah, like I said, this is where we set up all of our meetings. So whether that's a one-off or that's something that's recurring, and we just find this a kind of the best platform to do that from. So On this, if you can see, I don't think you can see my cursor, can you? But you can see the three options in blue. So you've got schedule a meeting, so that's for meetings in the future, join a meeting, or host a meeting. If you just wanted to start a meeting straight away, you can do that via host a meeting, and you can have your video on or your video off. But we mostly use it for scheduling meetings. Perfect. I'm just checking the chat to see if anybody's got anything grand. So Samantha Evans has her name's on the back of a lot of the back of these slides because she took them for us for some training, and she's one of our team members. So that's why her name's cropped up there. But this is her profile on Zoom. And as you can see, she's got personal meeting ID and a personal link, which I won't go that much into because we don't personally use them, but we can provide you more information about them if you do want to. I'm just going to move on to our next bit. Perfect. So if you want to schedule a meeting, you have the option of whatever date it is and how long you would like it to last for, and whether or not it's a recurring meeting or not. So these are all the things that you can choose when you're setting up your meeting, which just help make it a little bit easier if you're doing the same thing over and over. One of our tips on safeguarding and security on Zoom is registration. So if you can see in the middle of the screen here, it says registration, and then you can tick required or not. I would suggest that it's a good idea to get people to register. It depends what you're doing, but we always get people to register. So the process that you would have been through to join this session today required registration. And we suggest it because it's a two-step process. So we don't actually use a password for our meetings, but we do registration because it slightly filters people out that might be wanting to do slightly strange things because it's just a lengthier process. And there are other things that we do during the meeting in terms of security. But yeah, we find registration is a good part of our kind of security toolkit, I would say, on Zoom. But if you wanted to have a password for the meeting, you could also choose that, the options at the bottom of this screen here. All right, okay. Your password, if you did choose to have a password, I think is automatically generated, and people receive it in the link for the meeting invite. So you could send that directly to people, and that would, limit anybody else being able to access your meeting. When you set up your meetings, you can choose whether people join with their videos on or off. So you've got your host there, which would be you as the person running the meeting, and your participants, so you can choose. And what kind of audio options, but we'd always just say both audio options because you don't know if they're dialing in from a phone or from a computer. And you've got a couple more meeting options here. So one of the other things that we always do in terms of security on our sessions is to have a waiting room. So some of you will have been in the waiting room before the meeting started this morning at 10:30. The waiting room is a really good way to see who is trying to join your session rather than it just being open and anybody being able to join. So we could see all of your names in the waiting room, and we could just, check out who you were, as it were, beforehand. And also, we do it because when we do these workshops, it's nice for everybody to join at the same time rather than have maybe some people 10-15 minutes beforehand. We use that time to just run through as a team anything that we need to double check last minute. And then we just let everybody in at the same time. So it's quite a nice way to start a meeting or a workshop or something like that. And in this section, you can also choose whether you want to mute participants on entry. So I did that for this meeting. You all came in and all your microphones are muted so that you're silent and there's not too much interference. So we would automatically select mute upon entry. And you can do other options there. I won't run through absolutely everything because there's so many things you can choose to do on Zoom, but you could do things like choose whether you record the meeting automatically or not. We do that on ours. And at the bottom where it says alternative hosts, if you've got other people as part of your Zoom package or plan, we do in our team, you can select somebody else that's registered within that to be an alternative host for you if you couldn't run the session on a certain day or whatever that was. And then I've written here in giant letters, save. As you scroll down the page, you need to save your settings for this, otherwise they won't have been changed. All right, does that all make sense so far? I can see some furious note taking, so I'm hoping this is helpful. Perfect. Okay. When you've done all of those, you'll get your invite link. So that's in the kind of middle of the page here. And to the right of it in blue, you should be able to see it says copy invitation. And that's the way that you could copy the invitation. If you'd set a password, it would be within that text as well. And you can share that with people. So you can either copy and paste it, pop it in an email to people, or we copy it and put it in the information on our Facebook event pages. So that's how you've got that link. If you set a registration option, so you require people to register, it will be a registration link instead, which is what you will have done. All right. And on this page as well, you can't see it on this screenshot, but there is also the option to add the session to your calendar. So Zoom is configured with a few different calendars. We use Outlook, and you can pop the meeting that you've just set up straight into your Outlook calendar, and you could invite people that way as well. So it's quite straightforward. It's quite intuitive. There's just a lot to choose from. So I would say there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of research in terms of what would work best for your group or whatever meeting it is you're trying to run, and probably a little bit of trial and error as well. So I think you'll have set up your meeting. Here is your option to your registration option. So if you chose that you wanted people to register beforehand, this is what it will look like on the screen. When people have started registering, you'll get a number. So if you where it says manage attendees, registrants, you'll be able to see how many people have registered. And there are several things you can do from this. So you can automatically approve people, or you can manually approve people. So if you want people to register, if you're holding an open event, for your group or whoever it is, you might want to automatically approve people. That would mean that anybody that registers is approved. If it was something that was more closed, like a meeting for specific people, you might want to manually approve people if you choose the registration option. So you have that there. And there's also things like you can have an email sent to you when somebody registers, and different options at the bottom there that you can have a look through. As part of your registration, you can ask people questions. So this is quite a good way to find out a bit more about who the people are that are registering. So you can choose what you're asking people there and whether it's compulsory or not. So if that's their name or their address or whatever it is that you would like to know about. And you can also set up custom questions here. So we have these on ours. You will have filled them in. I think we've got something around the newsletter and that kind of thing on there. And so you can write your own custom questions, whatever they are. If you want somebody to sign up to your newsletter, if you want to know if people are interested in joining future meetings or sessions, whatever they are, you can pop those questions in there. Perfect. And then with your registration, you can choose where your email, where people register to. So if they've got any questions, you can choose whose email address is there, as that's Sam's email there. And one of the things that you can set up when you set up your meeting is a poll. So you have this option at the bottom and you can fill in what you want to be in your poll. So I have set up a poll, and in a second we're going to complete the poll. So here you've got edit poll. You can put a title for it. and you can click whether you want people's answers to be anonymous or not. And then you type your question in the top, and then choose whether you have a single choice answer, like a yes or a no, or a multiple choice, which can be, as you can see, more than just 2 choices. You can have quite a few different options on there. So if you're not familiar with polls, we're going to try one out now. So I'm just going to launch it. And in a second, you should see the poll on your screen. Can everybody see that? Has it popped up? Ah, perfect. Perfect. So as the host of the meeting, I can see you all taking part in the poll. So I can see what your options are, and there's kind of toolbars that are going up and down as people are voting. So I think we've had about half the people on here have taken part. So I'll give it a few more seconds. So you can use a poll for whatever you want, but it's just it's one of these kind of interactive tools that you can use on Zoom. And it's just a nice way to kind of gauge people's opinion as you go along, and you can make them funny, or you can make them, I don't know, informative, or whatever it is. It's just a useful tool to have. And you need to set them up on the Zoom website. Am I saying, is that right, Katie, or have I just made that up? I'm sure you have to set them up on the Zoom website. You can't just do it on the call. Yeah, she's not
right, yeah.
Perfect. Katie's like my fact checker, as well as my colleague in matching uniform. She's my fact checker in case I'm making things up. Yeah, so you have to set it up on the Zoom website, and it's useful to set it up beforehand so that it's ready to go. Okay, I've given you guys a minute or so, so I'm going to end polling, and I'm going to share the results with you. So can you see the results? This is always the way, always a 50-50 split, isn't it? Always. Perfect. And I'm just gonna stop sharing the results now. So that should have gone off your screen. So that's polling on Zoom. And you can use it, yeah, as I said, for whatever you want, but it's just a nice interactive tool to use. Okay, so hopefully that has helped you all with setting up a meeting. And as I said, loads of different options there that I didn't go through every single one of. But places like the Zoom support website, which we'll give you a link to, will have even more on there in the different options. But those are the things that we use in terms of waiting rooms and muting people upon entry, and those things that we find really, really useful. All right. So Katie, is there anything from the chat that I should look at? Any questions that have come through that you haven't been able to answer or anything?
There's been lots of good questions, actually, and it's testing me a little bit to keep up with them. There's a few questions about videos on and off and how you set it up to have a photo when your video is not running. So I haven't done that before, but I think it's down in the settings by the stop video, start video button. I'll carry on checking that while you're chatting, and also about why the poll added up to 104%, but it's because it was a multiple choice, so some people could choose both of them.
Oh,
so someone must love and hate Marmite. There we go.
Okay.
Somebody's asking how you launch the poll. You can do that if you're the host or the co-host. So the person that sets up the meeting originally comes in as the host, and then you can assign that to somebody else. So Lucy set up the meeting, but because I'm doing some of the technical stuff, she's assigned me as the host of the meeting. So that means I have more controls. But Lucy's a co-host, which means she has some controls as well, and she's still able to launch the polls.
Yeah, so launching the poll, yes, thank you. Thanks, Katie. Launching the poll, I've got a toolbar at the bottom. In a minute, I'll share some screenshots that will probably show you some of this stuff. So hopefully that will answer some of the questions and you'll be able to see what I can see as a host. But I've got a toolbar along the bottom and there's the option for poll, and then I can launch the poll from there. The question about the profile picture, I think this was a question I was emailed, so thank you. But on the Zoom website, Zoom zoom.us or whatever it is, there's one of the tabs is for your profile, and in there you can change your profile picture. I saw that this morning, so I think that would be the thing that would come up when you don't have your video on. Yeah, we don't have that set, but that is how you do it. Okay, no problem. If there's anything that we haven't answered as we go along, there should be a bit of time at the end of the session, so you can ask more questions there. Okay, so I'd like to move on. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. Lovely. And just look at some of the things that you can do during a session. So this is more of the stuff, the tools and things you can use while you're during a session. So this is Sam's screen. She's got her video off, but this is similar to what I can see. She's set up a meeting on her own just to take these screenshots, but can you see the toolbar along the bottom there? So this, as a host, is the kind of thing that we can see on Zoom. And I'm just going to run through a few of the kind of tools and bits that you can use on there. So starting from the bottom left, where you've got your microphone, that's where you would toggle on and off with your microphone to mute or unmute yourself. You've got an arrow to the right of it, and that has all of your kind of audio settings in it. So you can pick different microphones if you wanted to do that. If you want to link it up to something else, you can do that, and speakers and things like that. The very bottom of that box that's popped up is audio settings, and you can click on that and there'll be far more options in there too. And then moving along, still on the bottom left, you've got your video option. So again, that's where you would turn on and off your video. If there's a red line through it, it means your video's off, like this one is on this picture. And again, if you click the arrow to the right of that little box, you've got your video settings option. And also, can you see in that black box in the middle, it says choose virtual background? Can people see that? Yep, some nodding, perfect. You've probably seen people using virtual backgrounds. Here's a picture of Sam and her son. So you can add a virtual background onto your settings in Zoom. So if you wanted, this background behind me is fairly uninspiring. So if I wanted to change it now, I could change it. So you go into the virtual background option, and there are options for what you can choose. Sometimes you have sort of pre-loaded photos on there from Zoom. I think the one Sam's using in her background is one of those. And you can also, above the little individual images, there's a small little plus button. Can you see that, a button with a little plus sign in it? Yep. There you can choose from different files. So you could choose from some of your own photos. There's something about having a green screen. So sometimes the virtual backgrounds don't work quite as well as you would like them to, but it's when your background's a bit busy. So we've found either an alternative to a green screen is a green sheet. I've seen people doing this, hanging a green sheet behind them. But I find that if I have a plain background behind me, the virtual backgrounds work fairly well. But again, another thing to have a go at. And quite funny, and you can kind of transport yourself to wherever you like. We like to put the biomes as our virtual background, so we feel at home while we're working from home. Okay, and then during your Zoom meeting, if you wanted to invite people, say somebody didn't have the link and you've already started, in the top left, I think it's a little I symbol, like the letter I. You could click on that and that will give you your meeting invitation. So you can again copy that link and send it to somebody if they didn't have it, or you wanted somebody else to join. And when you're a host, as Katie was just mentioning, so the host is the person that set up the meeting and has all of the control of all of these tools and things that you can use and of the participants in the meeting. There's something called manage participants. So in this screenshot, Sam is just in this meeting by herself, which might be quite lonely. But ordinarily, when you click on manage participants, you'd have a list of your participants in your meeting. And there are various things that you can do with, you can mute participants, you can ask to turn their video off, you can rename them, as I mentioned. but that's where you would find the options to manage participants. And as Katie said, she has made me a co-host, which means that I've got some of those same controls as she has, and some of them are for security reasons, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But see there, if you click on manage participants, hover next to somebody's name, you've got the option to mute and to rename them, things like that. I'm sharing my screen now, and I've done this via share, again on that bottom toolbar. And so you can share lots of different things. So you can share a PowerPoint like I'm doing, you could share a video on a web page, you can share a photo, but that's how you find sharing your screen. Depending on what your settings are in Zoom, you might not have the option as a participant to be able to do that. I think we set it so that it's just Katie and I that can share our screen on this meeting. And again, that's another one of those quite useful safety, safeguarding tools. If you have it set so that anybody can share their screen, at any point somebody could just start sharing sort of whatever they want. So it's probably a good idea to change your settings so that it's just the hosts that can share their screen if you're doing something with a wider group of people. Perfect, this is the chat box. So I think you all found the chat box earlier. What you might not have seen from the chat box is that you can also share things in there. So you can share links, useful links to websites, and you can also share files. So I think you need to click on that. Yeah, click on the file option, and then it will give you the choice of where your file comes from. If you also can see next to the red arrow, there's a ... button. Can you see that? You should have the option in there to save the chat. So you could save the chat for yourself of everybody's, messages and things that they've been popping in there. Okay. And the next thing that I would like to come on to is breakout rooms. Oh, I've spelled that wrong. Breakout rooms not spelled like that. There is an O in the breakout. So breakout rooms, you've probably been on some sessions with breakout rooms, and they're just a really useful way to get people to connect and to have kind of smaller conversations while they're on these Zoom calls. If you've got a lot of people on them, it's a nicer way to kind of, put people into smaller groups, as if you were in a big space and you just had people sat around a table almost. So I'm just going to run through how to set up breakout rooms. But Katie, is there anything else? I can see lots of messages in the chat, but I haven't read them. But again, is there anything I need to come to?
I think we're good, Lucy. I think we've just about covered anything, but if anyone has anything else, pop it into the chat box. I'm still keeping an eye on it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So breakout rooms, as it says here. As the host, I have, or Katie has the ability to pop people in breakout rooms. So I'm going to just show you the process of how you set those up. And then we're going to go into some breakout rooms so we can have a quick chat with people. So again, on that bottom toolbar, if you can see where the arrow is, it says breakout rooms, and you have the option to automatically or manually assign people to rooms. On this one, Sam selected manually, and you type in how many rooms you'd like to pop people in. When you change the number of rooms, at the bottom where it says 0 participants per room, that number will change. So if you have 10 people on a call and you put them into 5 rooms, you'll have 2 people per room. If that makes sense. So you can tailor that as it suits. If you want people to just have a chat in pairs, you can do that. If you want people to have a chat in rooms of 6, you can do that. It's up to you. Obviously, if you don't have enough people on a call, that's that limits it slightly, but you can choose how many per room. And this is the option for automatically assigning people to rooms. So that would be where you choose who goes in which room. So you'd click on the arrow to the left of breakout room 1, and then you'd be able to pop people across into those rooms. So there's the option, it's either randomly selected or you can choose. So perfect. So Sam here, is on a meeting, and there are 12 people on the meeting in the background with her. She's selected 4 rooms, and then as you can see, it's 3 participants per room. So she'll then go on to press the blue button at the bottom that says create rooms. And this is what you can see when people are in breakout rooms. I've taken some people's names out just because of GDPR, but you'll get a list per room of everybody that's in that room. So you'll be able to see who's where, and you'll also be able to see if people have joined or haven't joined. So that's what it looks like when you've got people in breakout rooms. You then, to start them, need to press the blue button at the bottom that says open all rooms, and people will then get an invitation to join those rooms. Under your options tab, when you're setting up your breakout rooms, you've got a few different things. So you've got move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. So you can do that automatically rather than giving them the option to join or not. You've got allow participants to return to the main session at any time. We tick that one because it's quite nice if people don't want to have a chat, sometimes they don't, that they can just stay in this main space with us. Breakout rooms automatically close after a certain amount of time, and you can choose how long that is, if that's 20 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever that is. And at the bottom there it says countdown after closing breakout room. So people will get a notice that says breakout rooms will close in however many seconds it is. We normally do a minute because that's quite a good length of time for people to be able to wrap up a chat really without it being too hurried. Perfect. So Sam had, in this example, pressed that button, a button at the bottom that says open all rooms. And this is the shot that you'd get as people are joining those rooms. And can you see in the green box in the corner, it says all participants have been invited to join their breakout rooms. This is what you would have. So hopefully everybody has joined your breakout room successfully. This is Sam now sat in this main space on her own because everybody is off in their other breakout rooms. And you will have your list of who's in what room. So breakout room 1, you've got 3 people, etc., etc. If you wanted to close the rooms at any point, you could press that red button to close them. If you don't want people to chat for as long as you've set, that's fine. And great. If you press the button at the bottom that says broadcast a message to all, you can type a message to people in their breakout rooms. It's I don't know the actual count per letters or words or whatever it is. It's quite limited, and it also, that message only flashes up for maybe 20 seconds, something like that. It's quite short, so it's useful, but I would say keep your message kind of short and sweet probably. Lovely. Okay, so excellent. While we were looking, I'll just stop sharing my screen, perfect, at how to set up breakout rooms. Hopefully, Katie, Tech Wizard Katie, was setting up some breakout rooms for you. So I thought it'd be really nice just to have a chance to just chat with people on the call. So Katie set up some rooms that you'll get an invite to in a minute. And how are we doing for time? I've talked a lot. Maybe we'll do 5 minutes in breakout rooms, Katie, instead. Thank you. So if, yeah, you just head into your breakout rooms and there'll just be 3 or 4 people per room. If you just introduce yourselves to people, and I would like you all to remember where one person is from in the UK. If you're not sure where that place is, it might be useful to ask as well. But remember this for later because we're going to be using it. All right, so just, yeah, a chance for a few minutes just to say hi and, yeah, remember where one person is from. If you're in a group, you might need to decide who's remembering which person's location. Does that make sense? Grand. Okay, Katie, if you open those rooms, and we'll see you back in here in about 5 minutes, everyone. Okay, I'm going to carry on. So I think we had quite a lot of people that didn't have their videos on. So I thought we'd do something a bit interactive, and this is one of the tools that you can use on Zoom. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and hopefully you can all see this picture. Yep, grand. So when you had your chat in your breakout room and I said, please try and remember where one person is from, I would like you to annotate this map if you can, and pop a little star or whatever it is, that person's name on the map. So on your screen, it might be on the top of your screen, there should be an option that says annotate, and it looks like a little pencil. You might have to, if you're on a tablet or a phone or something, you might have to tap on your screen to get that toolbar up. It's either the top or the bottom, and it's on your toolbar on the right hand side of it. Anybody see that? Will people find that? Ah, I can see some stars. Amazing. Okay, grand. So pop whatever you like. So I'm not testing your geography. I don't know where anyone's from. This is not what it's about. Great. So you can pop people's name in. The stars, little stamps, things you can do. Grand. I like the big red squiggly one. Is that the sea? Are they just in the sea? That's great. Grand. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Great. So this is an option which is called annotate, and you can do it with lots of different things. So whether that's a picture, in a second I'm going to show you something called the whiteboard, but it's again just a nice way to do something a bit interactive and a bit collaborative as well. Okay. Grant, has everybody more or less had a chance to have a go at that? Nodding. No.
There's a few people who haven't been able to find it, Lucy, so I'm just typing some ideas into the chat box. But just to say that if you sometimes have to take your cursor right up to the very top of the screen, and it will say in green, you are viewing Lucy Flatman's screen, and then just to the right of that it says view options, and there's a little drop down arrow, and then under that it'll say annotate, and you click on annotate, and then you should get up a bar which has gives you an option to put stamps, like little stars and hearts and text. It's a great one just to practice with a couple of friends if you're doing a sort of family and friends Zoom meeting, especially with kids as well. They love having a go with the annotate. So I'd really recommend just having a little play around with that with a few people that you know. I don't know if that's helped anyone. I'll carry on typing and see if I can see any other ways that might be able to get in.
On the iPad, if you touch the screen, it's in the bottom left hand corner and it's a pen symbol and it just says Lucy's screen, and you press on the pen and then it comes up.
Ah, grand. Thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah, this is, as I was saying at the beginning, yeah, Zoom looks different on different devices. So as Katie just said, worth having just a bit of a play around with things. Great. This map, this map looks amazing. Okay, I'll give a few more seconds. Hopefully everybody's had a chance, and then I'll just quickly show you the whiteboard option as well. Grand. Okay. Perfect. Granya's moving around there. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'll just show you the whiteboard. So that was on the share screen option that I showed you before on my toolbar as the host. And again, I'm just going to click into that. And I'll just really quickly show you. You should be able to see a whiteboard here. And exactly the same, you should all be able to annotate this. So feel free to just have a quick scribble, whatever you want to do on there. Yeah, perfect. Like all these hearts, lovely. Grand. And so this is a nice, yeah, as Katie said, nice thing to do with families. Nice icebreaker, you know, if you've got the bit at the beginning of your Zoom meeting when people are still joining and a few people are a bit late, it's a nice option for that kind of thing. Katie, could you find the link to Sam's notes on her Zoom test pad session? Do you think you'd be able to find it? It's on our EPC. Our colleague Sam did a session a while back, and I think we've probably got a video for it as well, which was looking at lots of different interactive ways you can use Zoom and games and things that you can play on there. So Katie's going to find that link and pop it in the chat, and also I'll include that in the follow-up because it's really good. It's got some really nice fun things that you can do on Zoom. Well, this is just amazing. Great. I like the flower at the top. Very good. Oh, is that you, Grania? Okay, again, I'll just give you guys a few more seconds for everybody to have a little go. Perfect. Grand. Okay, I'm gonna just stop sharing my screen. Okay, good. Oh, Lisa, we'll see if we can help you find it. Sorry that you haven't been able to. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to my PowerPoint and just have a little look at things that you can do in the background. So as I mentioned before, there's heaps of settings on Zoom, and I just wanted to show you other things that you can look at. So again, this is going back to the Zoom website, so www.zoom.us, where you've logged in, and it's just looking at the different settings that you've got. So again, depending on what Zoom plan you've got, whether it's a basic one or a pro one or whatever, I think there's slightly different options with your settings, but this is just a useful thing to be aware of. So at the top there on the left it says profile, so for the person that was asking about changing their profile picture. Below that you've got meetings, so that's all of your scheduled meetings. Webinars, if you are using webinars, we don't have a webinar option. Recordings, if you've selected recordings, so you can tap on that on the left hand side to access your recordings. And the one that we've got highlighted, the settings one, just runs through lots of different settings. So here, again, you've just got the option whether your meetings start with your video on and your participants' videos on. And this is a bit more about passwords. So again, different options for passwords. So whether you require a password, the one that's toggled there is embedding the password in the link. So people have got the password there when they've got the link to join the meeting. So yeah, those are good things to look at. This is your options for settings for the chat box. So you can have a chat box or you can not, that's up to you. You can also choose whether you let people save the chat box or not. Private chat is when you send one-to-one messages. So you can send a message to everybody on this session or one-to-one to anybody as well, but you can choose that. And whether the chats get saved automatically, we tick that because often I would forget to save the chat if I didn't, so you can have that option there. And then these are, again, a few more options. So whether you have a co-host or not, as Katie was saying earlier, she's the host on this session, so she's got all of the power. I am the co-host, but again, you've got here, allow the host to add co-hosts and whether they've got the same in-meeting controls. Polling, whether or not you want to have polls, and yeah, just a few more options about your control toolbar. Whiteboard, whether you want to have a whiteboard or not, whether people want to be able to save the content of the whiteboard, and remote control. I'm not too sure about those other options, but worth looking into. Yeah, Katie, do you know about the non-verbal feedback? Is this your raise hands and things options? Yeah, okay. Just ways people can participate, raise hand option as part of that. I think we've got that turned on. Screen sharing. So again, who can share? We would usually have the host only, as I said before, just as a bit of a security protocol. But you can change that. If you're in a meeting with people that you know, some of these kind of security safeguarding things aren't so much of a concern. So it's just up to you what suits you best. And at the bottom there, you've got annotation, so things like the whiteboard. These are the advanced settings in meeting. So again, this is another safety one you've got here, report participants to Zoom. We do have that. So there's a report procedure that you can go through if there is any problems on Zoom that you feel need reporting. And then at the bottom there, you've got breakout rooms, whether you want them on or off, and whether you want the host to be able to assign people to breakout rooms when you're scheduling the meeting. That's an option. You don't have to necessarily do it in the meeting. You can plan it beforehand. Whether you want a waiting room. So again, all these settings on the website in your settings option. You can choose who goes into your waiting room or not, whether that's everybody or whether that's people that are not in your account. So I could choose that Katie doesn't go into the waiting room, for example, but we normally just put everybody, and then you can choose whether you want to admit people one at a time, or everybody at once. There's different options there. And then again, in your settings, you've got recording options where if you want to record your meeting, where you record it to, whether that's a cloud storage or whether that's onto your computer. And there's different settings on what you're recording as well, which views you're recording, things like that. And just a few more bits on again, like I said, the different types of recording views, whether you record something called active speaker, which is probably the default setting. So it's where you've got the person that's speaking that shows up on your screen. Gallery is where you've got everybody, the little tiles of pictures. And whether you want to save the chats automatically, and then just a few more advanced kind of recording options at the bottom there. Grand. Okay. I promise I will stop talking soon, but I think this is one of my last slides. Yeah, and it's just a few more tips on safeguarding and security on Zoom. So we've probably been through quite a few of these things already, but these are kind of our tips that we would use, I guess. So we've got registration. As I said before, we require people to register for all of our public sessions like this one. We don't use it for our in-team meetings, in-house meetings, but for public sessions we do. Password, you can opt for whether you have a password or not. Waiting room, so that space where people wait and you can see who's in your waiting room and whether you want to admit them or not. Settings, so as I mentioned before, you can choose whether people are allowed to screen share, whether they're allowed to chat, things like that. And then once you're in your meeting, there are certain controls that you have. Again, you can change whether people are allowed to screen share. If you say that they are at the beginning of the meeting and somebody puts up something that isn't quite right, you can stop that. Likewise, if somebody types something in the chat, you can stop the chat being used. You can also mute people, turn people's videos off, and you can, if you wanted to, remove a person from your meeting or report them. So there are options to kind of just, safeguard your meeting space. And the last one is just where you share your meeting. If you're sending it directly to people that you know in your team or your family or whatever in your community group, then that's probably much safer than popping it on a big Facebook page. So you just have options about where you share that and how widely it's seen. Grand. So let me just check the time. Okay, grand. So we've just got a little bit of time if anybody's got any questions at all. I know you've been asking Katie lots as we've gone along, but if there's anything that we haven't covered, do pop a message in the chat or just unmute yourself and feel free to ask, and we'll try and answer everything. As Katie just said, I've got a list of everybody that's registered on Zoom. You can get something called a report, so you can download a report of everybody that's registered, and I can email you all with this presentation and some notes and the links and things that we've been sharing, so you'll get that afterwards. Also, this session's being recorded, so when it's uploaded onto YouTube, I'll send you the link and you can watch it back should you wish to. So emails. Perfect. So there's a message here about if you want to share documents, do they have to be open on your desktop? I think it's helpful if they're open on your desktop. What happens if you share screen is you get a box pops up, a white box with different options. So PowerPoint, things that you've recently used, or like internet links, or photos, that kind of thing. So if they are open, I think that's helpful. Otherwise, you end up trawling through things a little bit. And the other thing to point out when you're sharing screen is you don't seem to be able to go from one thing to the other, which is why earlier when I had the photo that you, with the map on that you guys were annotating, I had to stop sharing my screen and then I had to reshare it to do the whiteboard. So yeah, I'd be a little bit mindful about sharing your screen, just in terms of what else you've got open in the background. So you might share and like an email might ping up or something like that. So probably a good idea just to close down things that you don't want people to share. Was somebody about to ask a question then? Please feel free to go for it. Yeah, Sally, go for it.
Okay, sorry. So Zoom, you can either have a free version, which is a shorter meeting, and you can pay if you want a longer meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially. I don't know loads about the kind of different plans on Zoom, but we do have a link on the pricing and the plans. But I think you can get basic, which is the free version, and you can have up to 100 people on your meeting, but your meetings can't be longer than 40 minutes. And then there's different paid for options above that. I would say we've probably got a business account at Eden that we use and we've assigned people to. So we've got kind of an unlimited amount of time we can have the meetings on, and more people if we wanted to join them. I think there's some settings that you don't have in the basic versions as well, but again, we can share you a link to that. Grand. Anybody else that wants to ask a question, or is it Katie, anything in the chat that I haven't seen?
Yeah, I could just maybe pick up on a point from Jane about she's feeling a wee bit nervous about hosting a session for the first time. And I was just saying, is even if you can practice with 2 or 3 people that you know, get some friends to help you try out. And also, we found that people are very understanding if something goes a little bit wrong, the technical side of it. If you suddenly go, oops, I've put you all in breakout rooms for 1 minute and everyone comes back in. It's happened to us. And nobody really minds. If you can as well, I'd also recommend that if you're hosting something for a group, try and have 2 people who are facilitating together, like Lucy and I are doing. So that means you've always got somebody who can keep an eye on the group, if there's any hands raised, someone who can deal with the chat while another person is presenting. And that means you can practice a little bit more while the other person is facilitating the group. So definitely, if you can get two people to work on it, that really helps. So yeah, back to you, Lucy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think there's just a bit of trial and error, as Katie said. I didn't know how to use breakout rooms, and I think the first time I did it, I completely messed it up, and everybody came back into the room. But as Katie said, people seem to be fairly forgiving of that. Yeah, you just need to try things out. So I would say definitely try and have 2 people if you're hosting something with a group, and it's not your team that you work with or something like that. If it's something that's open, it's really useful. I haven't been able to read any of your messages, for example, because I've been talking and sharing my screen, and that's all I've been able to see. So it's really useful to have somebody in the background doing those bits and pieces. And for example, when Katie set up your breakout room, she was doing that while I was talking to you about breakout rooms. So it's just quite nice. And it's also quite nice from a kind of security perspective to probably have 2 people on, because the person that's facilitating and kind of hosting might not be able to keep an eye on kind of everybody else that's on the call. So I'd recommend that.
Lucy, Mary was waiting for a question there.
Yeah, go for it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can, Mary.
Yeah. I've just put a note on the chat thing. I don't know if it's possible for if you pay for Pro for 1 month, and then you get someone else to pay for it for the next month, and so on. And is that possible? Does anyone know how that works?
I don't know about that.
No, I thought you wouldn't know because you're obviously on it for the whole time.
Yeah.
So I wondered if any of the other participants happen to know.
Anybody else? You'd emailed me about this, Mary. So Mary was saying,
Yeah.
could she buy a month's worth of Pro and then
just 1 month and then finish, that's it, and then someone else in the organisation buy another month?
I'm not sure. I would say probably, I'd say probably you have to sign up for a year or something, but I'm not sure.
Right, is that what people think? Generally, you have to sign up for a year.
You can pay for it for a month, but the thing is, you wouldn't be able to sign up with the same account. You mean like separate accounts each time? So say you bought, that'll be an individual Pro account you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just thinking of an individual account. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be your individual account for a month. Of course, you can do that and then finish it. But the issue then is that you're going to have to set up new accounts every single time, and only the person that owns the account can use it.
Okay, thanks ever so much then. That's answered the question. Thank you.
I've just popped the link to the different pricing plans and stuff on Zoom in the chat as well. Anybody else got a question? Emma, did you want to ask something? I saw your mute come off.
No, I was just going to respond to Mary, but I'll just message her, it's fine.
Okay, no problem. Anybody else, feel free to unmute yourself and just chip in if there's anything.
Yeah, I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you often see these Zoom talks and panel discussions being live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. So do you guys have any experiences with that, or how would we go about it?
Good question, thank you. I think that they're probably webinars, which is a different, when you've seen them, is it just like one speaker and you can't really interact with anybody else on the session?
So the last one that I saw, it was a panel discussion. So they had the private Zoom, and there were like, I think 8 people on a panel discussion, and it was streamed live on their Facebook page, and I could watch it there. And those outside of panel, if they wanted to interact, we could just put in questions on the Facebook chat, and the mediator would ask the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's probably a Facebook Live if it's on Facebook itself. And we have done a little bit of that. I don't personally know very much about it, but I think, yeah, it's a different platform, so it's on Facebook. And then there is an option to have webinars on Zoom. It's a different plan. And I think on a webinar, you can have a few different people that are hosting the webinar and talking, and everybody else can just watch and only interact via the chat, the chat option. So it's just, yeah, a slightly different setup, and it's more if you were kind of going to stream stuff to lots of people, I think sort of hundreds of people, or if you wanted your session to not be interactive. I think people they can't even see themselves. You don't join with your video, for example, you're just watching. I think that's a Zoom webinar. Yeah, perfect. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else got any questions?
Me again.
Yeah, go for it.
So going back to the very, very beginning at the start, the screen came up. Is that easy to find on the website? Is it easy, would you say, to start up a meeting?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you log into Zoom, the Zoom website. I'll see if I can show you. It might not let me show you on the screen. Let me know. Can you see this now? Yes. Yeah, so this is the Zoom website. So I've just popped in zoom.us at the top here. And on the far right-hand side, it says My Account. So you'd click on that and you would log in, or you can do the options which say Join a Meeting or Host a Meeting. I don't know if you can see. Can you see that page now? Has that changed? Yeah.
Yeah, that's working, Lucy.
Grand. Okay, cool. So that's my account there. And if I wanted to schedule a meeting, I'd click on the option there that says schedule a meeting. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. And there you pop in your topic and your description and the timings and things. So yeah, I would say it's yeah, all fairly intuitive, Sally. Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're using it on a PC, do you always use it through the browser? Do you always it?
I do personally. I think we can ask Katie what she does as well, but I do because I'm scheduling a lot of these sessions and I've got to kind of look at the settings in quite a lot of detail. If it was a team meeting, I wouldn't be trying to fiddle with as many of these settings. It would be much more straightforward. There's an app, isn't there? I do have the app.
You have to use an app because it doesn't work in the browser.
Okay, yeah, so the app is good. Yeah, you can do quite a lot on the app. It's just some of those more advanced settings you can't, and it directs you to the browser anyway. David, do you know why it doesn't work in your browser?
Yeah, it just doesn't work with Safari.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you can probably use it with Chrome, but I haven't tried that.
Okay.
It works beautifully through the app, but I'm trying to find out for reference for other people that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Who are on PCs.
Yes, yeah. I would say, yeah, probably through the web browser because, yeah, you've just got, you know, all of the information there that you need. But the app is a quicker sort of alternative. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No worries.
If there are any other meetings that you're hosting, will you let us know? Because we found this really interesting. So if there are any other topics, it would be really interesting. How do you, is it just by Facebook? Because it was only because I was scrolling up that I found you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Jeanette. I'm glad it's interesting. I thought it might just be a bit boring PowerPoint, so I'm glad you found it helpful. Yeah, definitely. We have a session scheduled for next week, which is not on Facebook yet, but I will probably put it up later, which is around being safe online. So it's with an organisation called Get Safe Online. We'll be hosting them and they'll be talking about different platforms and different elements of safety on those platforms. So that might be useful. And Jeanette, was your question around using different things like Facebook, how to use those as well?
I was just wondering, the only reason how I saw you was because I'm not very clever, just scrolling through, and I thought, oh, that was interesting because I was just asking Katie in one of the letters that I just did. I belong to a virtual choir, but when they sing, and it sounds horrible, and we all got to say it sounds nice, but it doesn't sound nice because we're all starting. I wondered, what can you do other than having a conductor there? And I just asked that because we enjoy seeing each other because we haven't seen each other in church since since we were all locked down here. And for Wales, we've been locked down a little bit further than anyone else. And it's so lovely to see everybody. It sounds horrible. So, because we're starting at different times, you know, I'm starting, they're starting, and it just sounds off. And I just wondered, is there anything other than a conductor that we could have done? But no, getting back to my original question was, so when you put it on Facebook next week or whenever you do it, we can join in again, or can you email us and let us know what you have, a list of what's coming up?
Yes, I will email you. Yes, I'll email you about next week's for sure, and I'll email you about the Facebook page. Katie's just popped the link in the chat as well there. So it says facebook.com and then it's Eden Project Communities events. So if you open that and maybe bookmark it or something, we've got about 2 or 3 of these sessions a week. And also if you've missed them, they're all, or most of them have been recorded and they're up on our YouTube channel. So you can watch things back because there might be previous things that have been interesting.
So your YouTube channel would be the Eden Project?
It's Eden Project Communities. I will find you a link. Yeah, absolutely.
And I would just like to thank everybody because in Wales we've been locked up so long. This is lovely to have this communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, Jeanette, might like our Wednesdays. Every other Wednesday we're doing just an open space, which is more of a, as it sounds, open chance to just connect with people. I can't, Katie, is that, I'm lost on where we are with our weeks now.
It's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, 12:30. Yes. So that will be on the Facebook page, and like I said, every other Wednesday, just a chance to connect and chat with people, really informal. So yeah, anybody is welcome to those.
So your YouTube and your Facebook are the same?
Yeah. Oh look, Katie sent the YouTube link, Brill.
Okay, I'll check that, and that's really interesting. Thank everybody. It was lovely for us to.
Excellent. Thank you for joining. That's great.
For having us.
Any more questions from anybody?
Lucy, I'll just maybe mention to people that if they want to keep some of these links for later, they can actually save the chat. So if you go to the chat box where you would type in, again, this is for a PC, someone on the iPad could probably tell me what they need to do, but in the box where you would type to put something in chat, there's 3 little dots on the right-hand side. And if you go to that, it'll give you the option to save chat. So it just saves it as a text box, but that means that all the links are there. The other thing is click on the links while you can see them in the chat. They'll open in a separate browser, and then you can go back to them and look at them once you've logged out of the meeting as well. So I hope that's useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Grand. And any more questions from anybody at all?
What other topics have you, if we've missed them, as I have,
Yeah.
have you covered during the past?
Oh, you're testing me, Jeanette.
Of interest, really.
Heaps of things. So we've alternated between workshops that are kind of useful, practical, quite sort of informative, and talks which are maybe more inspirational, or you're sort of learning about a specific topic or things. So workshop wise, I can tell you from my list. We've had lots of things. So we had things on like resilience, how to build networks. We've had some creative sessions called poetry and paint sessions lately. We've had sessions on the big lunch, play, lots of different things. And then, yeah, similarly with talks from various different people who come to some of our events. So a guy called Chris Hines, who's an activist talking about kind of campaigning and activism. A lady called Laura who talks about the importance of spreading good news. Yeah, really, really varied, very interesting if we do say so things. So yeah, do have a look at the YouTube, and yeah,
I certainly will. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Grant, well, I think hopefully we've answered most questions. Karen, have you got a question?
Yeah, when I want to change the background,
yeah,
I know how to get there now, but when you get there, it says there's nothing in there. So do you have to upload pictures into that?
Yeah, let me see. She's gone into choose virtual background. Have you got any options in there at all, Karen?
No, it just says none, or add photo or video.
Yeah, so you might have to then. You might have to kind of pre-load those photos in there. So when I've clicked on add photo, it's taken me to my kind of file explorer, and I've got different options there. So yes, you might have to add those in.
Yeah, because this is a work computer, so there's no personal pictures on there or anything.
Sure. No. I guess you could maybe, if you've got some personal pictures, could you email them across to your work email?
Yeah, it's like Katie's sent me another link which takes me to a screen that gives you pictures or something I'm going to have a look at later.
Perfect.
That's great. Lovely. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found it helpful. And yeah, as we were just talking about, please check out some of our other events that are coming up. The Get Safe Online one is next Thursday at, I think, 10:30 from my memory. That will be up later today. So that's a good one for kind of safety, safeguarding online and different platforms. And yeah, there'll be lots of other interesting things coming up too. So yeah, thank you again, and we hope to see you soon. If you've got any more questions, you should have my email address. It was probably in your registration, so you can just send them through at any time. But yeah, thank you, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Good luck with all your Zooming.
Thank you.